If you're an introvert and you've ever just kind of accepted the fact that you're just a socially awkward person and there's nothing you can do about it, I wanted to dispel that myth. My name's Karen Dudek-Brannan, and I help pediatric therapists and educators, and I help them to become better leaders so that they can provide better services for their students and clients. And this past week or so, I've been talking about introversion and dispelling some of the myths that are out there about it. I am in a lot of professional groups where there are a lot of introverted therapists who love their jobs, love what they do, but have a hard time managing their energy because they have to be peopling all the time. And sometimes a lot of them are feeling a little bit awkward or nervous in a lot of the situations where they're in. And aren't really sure at times if they pick the right profession. So if you are an introvert and you're a teacher or a therapist of some kind that works with kids and you have to deal with people all day long, then you're going to find this really helpful. So I myself am an introvert. I've always felt kind of socially awkward. I've always kind of thought, like, is there something wrong with me? Am I just bad with people or whatever? And when I started learning about introversion versus extroversion, I found it really helpful because I finally had a framework for understanding why I was feeling that way and how I could help myself be successful. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about a concept called scaffolding. So scaffolding is something that therapists do, teachers do, and basically it just means support. Like scaffolding in the building is the support that's holding it up. So scaffolding, when it comes to teaching or just setting up a situation, has to do with structure and support. So a lot of introverts, it's not that they are antisocial. It's not that they're not good with people. It's just that they really benefit from scaffolding and structure. So let me give you a couple examples from my experience when I was working in the school system. So I was an SLP for 14 years for the public school systems, and I often had to run at IEP meetings for kids who were getting special education services. And I was often the case manager. So I would be the one running the meeting, or in other cases, somebody else was the case manager. And I still had to present my information to a big group of people, have a conversation with parents and teachers about some sensitive topics. I actually got pretty comfortable with that. But the thing about that is that when you're running a meeting like that, there is a certain structure and there is a certain understanding of what everyone's role is and what you can expect. So I actually got pretty good at running those meetings because I felt comfortable and because I, did them all the time. And also because there was this structure that I knew I could expect. And as I got used to that structure, it actually became really easy for me to talk to people and be in this situation where I had to be around a group of people on a regular basis. What I found really stressful, though, was the staff Christmas party. I remember sitting in my car before I was about to go in, and I'm sitting there like prepping myself, like, okay, you're going to go in, you're going to like this is what you're going to do first. You're going to go over here and you're going to get some food, and then and I had to kind of talk myself through that situation because that's a less structured situation without the scaffolding. Without the structure, it's, again, it's a little more fluid. So something like that to an introverted person is a lot more anxiety provoking than something that does have some structure. So a couple things that you can take away from this, if you are an introvert yourself and you're in some kind of a role where you're having to work with a lot of people, or if you are in like a teacher or a therapist and you have clients who are introverted and you're trying to help them get over their anxiety about certain situations, if you have, if you're wanting to help your clients improve their communication skills and understanding situations, it is important that you understand that a lot of times if you have clients who are introverted, that scaffolding is going to make an impact on your client's success in those situations. And it's also going to impact how they feel about them, like how willing they are to do certain situations. So for example, it's not that like if you are in a situation where that something that's not structured is going to be kind of overstimulating for you, then there's kind of a balance, because on one hand, if you avoid certain situations all the time, you're going to actually have more anxiety about it. There's a ton of research to support that, because what happens is that you're avoiding that situation and you're not getting into that situation and actually getting the experience of feeling competent in it. And you're not developing what's known as episodic memory, where you have this vivid understanding of that situation and you can kind of navigate it better. So even if it is a little bit unstructured, you can kind of create some structure in your mind about how you're going to navigate it, and you can kind of read it and understand it, and you get more comfortable. So if you're always avoiding certain situations, obviously that's going to cause you more anxiety. But on the other hand, if you're an introvert and you are somebody who needs to recharge on your own, there might be kind of a balance there where, yes, it's good for you to put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. But on the other hand, if you do it too much, you can kind of burn yourself out. So there is kind of a balance. And how I recommend people generally do it, if they're doing it personally or if they're trying to help a client through it, what I recommend is that you just kind of have to prioritize what's the most important. There might be certain things that you just don't care about doing. It's not really going to serve you in any way. It's not going to, in your personal life, help you grow as a person or build relationships that are going to make your life more fulfilling, or it's not going to be something that's going to move your career forward. And so if that's the case, then there might be certain situations where you just think, you know what, it's not even worth it for me to try to get comfortable in this situation. But there might be other situations where you're avoiding them and it's actually holding you back. So if that's the case, then it might be beneficial for you to prioritize those specific situations. So I would say, if you're going to do that, you kind of have to just pick one or two things at a time, get used to that, and then you can figure out how you add more. That's how I did it myself. And when I was navigating those situations, I would try to figure out ways that if other people weren't providing scaffolding for me, for example, like, again, at the Christmas party, like no one's creating that scaffolding for me. I have to create it myself. So if I'm going to go out and do things that involve talking with people, I have to figure out up front how I'm going to create my own scaffolding that's going to help me to feel less anxious and kind of have a strategy and some rules that I can follow in order to actually go through that situation. One example that I did when I was in the schools is that I would notice that a lot of people went during lunch or, planned periods, some people would just kind of be like socializing and chatting and stuff. And I would have a tendency to just kind of stay in my room. So what I would do is that I would purposely go and find a teacher that I knew I shared a lot of kids with, that we both had the same kids on our caseloads and we needed to collaborate anyways. And so I would just say like, hey, let's eat lunch together and we'll talk about these students. And then I could create kind of an agenda. So it was a little bit structured, but it wasn't just super structured. We could still have some just conversation at the same time. So to me, that was purposeful. That was a strategic thing that was getting me out of my comfort zone. I was creating my scaffolding because I was asking to meet someone at a certain time. I was creating somewhat of an agenda to the conversation, but I was at the same time not being too structured about it. So that's one way that I created my own scaffolding to keep me honest and get out of my comfort zone. So that's something that I recommend if you are somebody who's introverted, is to prioritize, realize that scaffolding is really important and that you can create your own scaffolding. And if you're working with clients, you can figure out ways that you can provide scaffolding for them and then eventually help them to be aware that they need that so that they can start to create the scaffolding for themselves as they get older and they get more independent. So I hope this was helpful. Stay tuned because I am going to be doing another video tomorrow about introversion and just some other myths. And definitely follow me on Facebook, Dr. Karen Speech and Language, and Dr. Karen Dudek-Brannan if you found this helpful.